Who would have known that a silver platter with a Dollar Tree truck, a plastic container, and scrap wood block could make beautiful fall decor? Hi creative friends, I'm Jane from Sustain My Craft Habit. Welcome back to Thrifted Thursday, where we transform thrift store and other items into beautiful new things for your home, for your family and friends. So let's get started. I was so happy when I spotted this little wood truck at my Dollar Tree a few months ago and made sure to snatch one up. I wish I had picked up another one to paint red for the holidays, but this one will make a really cute fall themed craft. So I had in my mind to do a teal and orange color combination. I'm kind of loving that color combo this year. And I started by painting the entire truck just with this teal acrylic paint. I think it's called Peacock Teal. I'll be sure to link it in the description below. I then painted the tires of the truck black and the hubcap parts with a little bit of gray paint. While the truck was drying, I went on and painted my pumpkins. I used different shapes of pieces of driftwood I'd collected in the summer. I simply used some orange acrylic paint and then blended in a bit of white to get these different shades of orange and painted in an up and down direction to mimic the lines of a pumpkin. I painted about 6 of these, not exactly sure which ones I would end up using in the end. But I wanted to have some that I could put into the bed of the truck and then a couple down on the ground beside the truck. Once those were painted, I set them aside to dry and then moved on to the next steps. I went back to the truck to add some detail using some black paint and a fine brush. I painted on the door and just little tracings around the wheel wells of the truck. Then I mixed up a little bit of that teal paint with some white paint to lighten it and added on a few highlights to the truck with a flat brush. I used black paint and the fine brush to paint lines to look like pumpkins onto those pieces of driftwood. Finally, I painted the rack from the truck bed that I had taken off with a little bit of heat and prying it off a bit, and I painted that brown. To mount my arrangement, I used this silver platter that I got from the Value Village, and I just really liked the shape of it. It had this beautiful detailed border, and so I painted the whole thing with a layer of white chalky paint. After the paint dried, I used a damp paper towel and just scrubbed off some of the paint along that outer border to reveal the really beautiful designs. Finally, I painted the handles with some black acrylic paint, and then it was time to put my arrangement together. I used a combination of Gorilla Glue, which I find adheres really well to the metal and the wood, and then my hot glue gun just to temporarily hold everything in place. I weighted it down with some paints to let it dry overnight. While that was drying, I glued my driftwood pumpkins in place on the bed of the truck. So I ended up using about 3 of the larger pumpkins and also glued on their little stems that I had cut from small twigs. Over top of that, I placed the rack of the truck, and I just love the 3D effect that this gives. After gluing a couple of pumpkins down towards the base of the truck, I made a double bow with this ribbon from the Dollar Tree also, actually. I'm completely in love with how this piece turned out. It's one of my favorite ones that I've done in a while. I think the vibrant teal with those orange pumpkins just go so well together. This second craft of the week is super inexpensive. I'm using this plastic jar, which I think must have come from some whey protein that my husband had, and I thought to make it into a pretty fall-themed luminary. So I started by drilling in some holes to let more of the light shine from the inside when the time comes, but it didn't really need it, as you'll see later. In any case, after drilling those holes, I painted the entire surface of my container with some Decoupaged glue. I used the Decoupaged glue. You could use Mod Podge. And I was curious to see if this Decoupage would work on plastic. Once the glue dried, I just went back in there and cleared any of the little glue in the holes, and then used my Easy Press Mini to iron on this napkin that was from, I think, the Dollarama here in Canada from this season. And it has this really pretty leaf motif on there. So I just slowly worked around and pressed the napkin into that decoupage glue that had dried already on the surface of the container. And it worked so well. So the heat wasn't too much. I didn't end up melting the bottle, but you do want to take care when you're decoupaging using the iron-on method onto plastic that you don't apply too much heat, which could warp your container. I needed to add a second piece of napkin to cover all the way around, but it's pretty seamless. You almost can't even see where that join line is. I have these cute LED candles to put inside. Obviously, you don't want to use an actual flame candle because the heat would start a fire. I decided to put some neutral colored flowers in there, some dried hydrangeas and other faux florals that I had. And then I made a little dangling embellishment to go along the side with some acorns, pine cones, and little wood cutouts, also from the dollar store. Finally, I finished the entire thing by wrapping some heavy twine around the neck of the jar to really give it that rustic finished effect. And I love how this looks. It looks beautiful during the daytime with these rustic embellishments and the pretty napkin. But also when you turn the light off at night, it has a gorgeous glow from the candles that are inside. These LEDs actually flicker, so it even looks like there's natural candles in there, but you don't have to worry about heat or fire. For our third upcycling project this week, we're going to use this scrap wood block to create a really cute piece of decor with a buffalo check pattern. If you've not tried this buffalo check technique, you're going to fall in love. So you just need your surface and a little bit of masking tape to mask off some lines. So use that to create evenly spaced stripes, and then blend your paint color that you want to use with equal parts of the color. So I'm using yellow here and white paint to create a lighter version of the color that you're using. Once those stripes are dry, go back and add tape in the opposite direction. I like to start in the center because then I know that the lines will be even at the edges once I get there. And then I use another piece of tape to help with the spacing so that I don't have to measure them out. I simply place down that piece of tape, add my next one, and then remove that spacer piece. The great thing about this technique is no matter how big your surface is, you can continue alternating the tape to make the buffalo check pattern. I used this same technique last week to create a really cute sign for my kitchen, so I'll be sure to link that video. Okay, so now you're going to paint these stripes with the same lightened paint that you did for the horizontal stripes, your original stripes. Once you've painted those stripes, you'll want this paint to dry completely. I'm using my little drying tool here to help speed up the process, but you can let it go on its own. And then once that's dry, make sure you leave that tape in place and then take back those original pieces of tape and put them exactly where you had them before. You can kind of see the light lines peeking through the layer of paint. So use those to help replace these perpendicular pieces of tape again. Now, once your tape is in place, you're going to fill in all the little squares that are left over with the darker shade of paint, your original color that you decided to make your buffalo check pattern with. So for me, it's this pretty mustard yellow color, and this is the same color that I had diluted or lightened with a bit of the white paint to create the lines that we just finished painting. So we're just filling in the little squares here. And then we'll get to the fun part, which is removing that masking tape. I like to dry the paint a little bit, and then it's time for the magic to happen. We're slowly going to work and remove both of the layers of tape, and this is going to reveal our buffalo check pattern. Look how fun this is. So we have the original white paint, as one of the squares, and then we have the lightened yellow paint as other squares, and then finally the dark yellow paint. So obviously you can use this technique with any color. I've used it for black and red and even green, blue, to create whatever buffalo check pattern you'd like. I had this beautiful sunflower napkin and decided to use one of them to embellish my fall themed wood block. So I have this water pen from the Dollar Tree, I think I got it, and I used that to trace around one of the sunflower motifs and then tore that apart from the rest of the napkin. I simply used a bit of Decoupaged glue to glue that onto my wood block. And then I added on this Happy Fall Y'all vinyl phrase that I'd cut out on my Cricut Maker and transferred that with a bit of transfer tape right onto the little wood block. And after adding on a little burlap bow, this makes a beautiful piece of decor, a shelf sitter, or for your tiered tray for the fall. And that's it, 3 new beautiful pieces for your home from thrift store items and other pieces that you may already have around your home. I hope you found some inspiration in these ideas, and leave a comment below letting me know which was your favorite this week. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!